because we had learned so much and because we had developed such tight stories for Justin and Catherine, we did then decide that it was worth going back. Red Ink was no longer its own quirky little project that was just put to bed. It was now going to be part of this much bigger project, and we wanted it to have the same caliber.
It was definitely, in the beginning, the sort of film where you had to have somebody who knew what was going on to explain to you the nuances.
So we began to revisit and reimagine Anna's story and make some severe changes.
We had a number of scenes of Anna doing quirky things with food. And they were funny, and they were compelling, and they looked great on screen. And then there was a third deleted scene of her lining up Skittles, which was a beautiful scene because of all the different colors, but it overshadowed the issue that I was hoping to get at, which was this idea of faith and loss of faith. And
most people felt that it was just going too far for Anna's character, and it was all about the quirky habits and not enough about the serious issues that were driving her character and driving the story forward.
There was a line in there that I had written for a very different type of character that Anna ended up being.
Why do you like fortune cookies so much?
Because... never mind.
In the original screenplay, she said they were the only things I could ever depend on to be good to me, And on set, it was decided that that person at that moment wouldn't say that, and I agree. But I was upset that it was gone.
The one line that we deleted from the original version that Jen felt explained it, we decided to give to her brother.
The way our grandfather raised us, she knew by a very early age these little fortunes were the only thing she could ever depend on to be good to her.
So we created this entire dialogue between the brother and the nurse and intercut that with Anna doing these things for her brother.
To really understand now that, the sort of thing that Anna's trying to keep her brother alive.
Anna?
The dynamic between Anna and her brother is really revealed a lot better now.
I regret to say he will be out of the country that week and won't be able to make his appointment. Can we reschedule?
A lot more of her childhood has been sort of revealed, I think, in some of the parts that were added. Her bad relationship with her grandparents. And
we also extended the last hospital scene that we see the brother in. The brother actually tries to fess up.
We would always have that moment there.
A full year later, we had come back to Chris's house to add a little shot with the original scene. Chris was showing me the original footage and then seeing myself on the monitor a full year later, and it just was like exactly the same shot, and it was just, it's very strange.
Everything that he says in the film to Anna is a lie, and once he tries to tell the truth, Anna won't let him.
Did you hear me?
I don't want to talk about Grandpa.
So he slips back into lying again.
It gives the story more meaning, and it says why this quirky character is doing what she's doing.
I mean, they're small things, but just even the little things have really made, I think, a big difference in telling the story.
By the time we were on the tail end of shooting Catherine's story, we had these reshoots for Anna's story going on and a few reshoots for Justin's story. So somehow, while working full-time and continuing to shoot, I had to keep all three stories in my head, understand exactly how they were all relating to each other. And I was doing shoots sometimes for all three stories on the same day. And it was exhausting.
It became a fun game of how to put the pieces together, and how does this one relate to this one, and reflect upon that one.
I remember Chris telling me that he was going to edit this all together as a feature-length film, and I didn't really know how I felt about it. I wasn't sure how all these stories were going to interconnect to each other and how they were going to become one long feature.
We couldn't come up with a title for the whole feature that we really liked, that we thought would be as strong. I do think it was Chris that said, what if we just call it Invisible Ink, and then we'll call it Anna's story, Catherine's story, and Justin's story.
So it gave, I think, the whole sort of team an opportunity to really think creatively and think in an imaginative kind of way about what we really wanted to say and what these films really talk about.
I'm constantly seeing shades of gray in the world, and I find it really hard to latch on to anything as a belief system, or even in the idea that there's one truth. I just see many.
This truth throughout the film comes into question and ultimately unravels.
I feel like the issues of loyalty come up in the scripts a lot. The issues of connection between people, or people's inability to connect.
I've always been a little envious of people who do have faith, even though it's not something that I can see myself wanting. And so I'm always interested in how people deal with that faith if it gets questioned.
I was really fascinated by the idea of how people structure their lives and create their habits around ideas that they have about their past, and how that structure gives way when you discover something unexpected about your past.
To find something that is so unexpected, that is such a shock.
All the characters in some way kind of live in their own world.
You would think at least you are left with your memories for whatever time you have left on this plane of action, let's say. But now everything has changed.
What do you do with that? How do you cope? How do you deal with restructuring your entire personal cosmology?
The films raise a lot of questions. I don't feel like they necessarily always answer them, which I like.
And one of the reasons why I love the ambiguity in all of these stories, or the lack of a traditional conclusion, is that I like the idea of everyone walking out of the film thinking about what's going to happen next for these characters and making up their own minds in that way.
They have to deal with other people and are like, I don't know how to do that, or this doesn't fit with my worldview. And I think that's really real. I think that's a lot of people at one point in their lives face that kind of struggle.
During the film, I constantly used this visual metaphor of buildings that were falling apart, because that was very representative of how Anna and Catherine and Justin were living their lives. They had built these entire fabrications around specific ideas about their family that all turn out to be untrue. And that's certainly the idea that bridges all three together more than the way the characters brush against each other as plot devices.
Jen and Chris are amazing in terms of how they pulled this together and had the big picture thought at the same time that they were working on each individual part, which to me was truly amazing.
I think when you get done, you're going to want to go back and kind of look at the stories again, just to look for some of those clues where they intertwine, but also just to look at some of those minor characters again that you might not have thought to look at the first time around.
Hi, this is Victoria with the Affordable Health
Center. I'm calling to let you know you've been pre-approved.
And so they were all donating their time and their skills and their energy and their effort for this project just because they loved the script, they wanted to work on it, they loved the cast, or they wanted to work with me or Jen.
And to feel that I had any role in that, however small it was, is really an honor.
I feel everyone has the sense of huge accomplishment and a big payoff. That, we signed on board to do this one little thing. We're helping out a friend, it's kind of fun. And it ended up becoming something much more deep and relevant and interesting and hopefully successful.
I guess I didn't take it as seriously. It didn't seem as serious to me as now I've seen it to play out.
Considering what the budget was, I think it's extremely professional looking and something to be very proud of, and I'm really, really proud that I was able to participate in it.
It's again, a real testament to how hard people worked on it and how much they loved the project.
I think we're all pretty happy that it was a good journey.